and stopped only for the last 3 months, who presented with shortness of breath and cough for 4 months and right-sided chest pain for the last 1 month. The patient was apparently well 4 months back when he had a dry cough initially with scanty expectoration. The expectoration was initially mucoid in nature. In spite of taking medicines from local doctors, the cough went on progressing and ultimately disturbing the nighttime sleep of patient. One episode of cough was associated with scanty hemoptysis. The cough was associated with shortness of breath, which was initially MMRC grade 1 and non-progressive till December 2016. After that, the shortness of breath went on increasing and progressing to MMRC grade 4 and was associated with chest pain. The shortness of breath was aggravated by day-to-day activities and cold and was relieved to some extent with rest, oxygen supplementation and medication by local doctors. The shortness of breath was also relieved thrice in December with tapping of 1 liter of fluid each time. From December, the patient also experienced a right-sided chest pain, which was typically sharp, stabbing in nature, aggravated with respiration, and the pain gradually gave way to heaviness recently. The patient was also unable to lie in left lateral position. The patient was given chest drain this Tuesday, after which there was slight improvement of symptoms. There is a continuous drainage of hemorrhagic fluid through the drain, and the recent chest X-ray is scheduled today. The patient had a past history of several episodes of cough and cold with shortness of breath for the last 6 years, for which he was treated by a local doctor with metered dose inhaler. Serial chest X-rays were done during that period, and he was diagnosed a case of interstitial lung disease. He also had a history of acute coronary syndrome twice in the year 2015, and the third time he was given a drug-eluting stent. He had no history of pulmonary TB or exposure to pulmonary TB or intake of ATD. He is now on tablet aspirin 75 mg, tablet propionate, tablet atoprostatic, tablet carvedilol, glycerin, cyanoate BD, tablet doxycycline, injection cefoperazone, salmeterol, tablet prednisolone, nebulization, tablet ondansetron, and ranitidine. General heart was unremarkable except for mild pallor, a respiratory rate of 30 to 35 per minute with a nasal prong at 3 liters per minute. On inspection, the neck muscles were prominent, trachea shifted to the left, and the right side of the chest was flattened. The right side of the chest also was moving less with respiration. A chest drain was seen in the mid-axillary line, which is connected to a water-seal drainage. The chest drain bag had a collection of 1.5 liter of hemorrhagic fluid. There is also fluid in the tubing, which is moving with respiration. On palpation, the chest drain was found to be in the 5th intercostal space. The right side of the chest was moving less with respiration and vocal parameters was diminished. The right side was also dull on perception, and the highest level of dullness was the 4th intercostal space. On observation, there is diminished breath sound on the right side, and there is adventitious sound in the form of bronchi both on the right upper and the whole of the left chest. Vocal resonance is diminished on the right side. Airway interpretation was normal, and the other systems were also within normal limits. Routine tests were normal. Hemoglobin was 10.2. Pleural fluid assay showed hemorrhagic turbid fluid with coagulum, cell count of 250 per cubic millimeter, 20% polymorphs and 80% monomorphs. The chest X-ray showed a huge collection in the right side with tracheal shift. The upper chest X-ray was of early December, and the lower one is of 8 January. The CT scan thorax also shows huge collection in the pleural space. The bronchoscopy, bronchial walls, and older CT scans and chest X-ray were absolutely normal.
indications normally for placing an intercostal drain?
Emergency and non-emergency. Emergency conditions are mainly tension pneumothorax, in which the tension pneumothorax, whether bilateral or covering more than 20% of thorax, or causing.
You have a patient in the theatre who's developed a tension pneumothorax. So what would you do? This patient already has an ICU. So we're not talking about this patient. Say you have a patient in the theatre who develops a tension pneumothorax. How will you first know this patient has a tension pneumothorax? And what will you do?
Either preoperative or intraoperative.
Say this is an intubated patient. You're ventilating with nitrous oxide oxygen. This is a patient who had a trauma, who had rib fractures. You just intubated. Pre-op patient did not have any pneumothorax. But after you started ventilating with nitrous oxide oxygen and your inhalational agent, after some time, a few minutes, the patient starts desaturating. And then when you do fluoroscopy, you can make out that there is a pneumothorax.
In spite of adequate positioning of the venotracheal tube and all other checkings, the patient will desaturate and there will be hypertension. If there is tension pneumonia, the patient will be
Feature. How will you know there's a pneumothorax? Once you said this, there's going to be a desaturation. Agreed. What else will be there?
hypotension.
If it goes to the level of tension pneumothorax, there will be hypotension. What else? Okay, what else? What will happen to your airway pressures? It will increase. What will happen to your end-tidal carbon dioxide? It will decrease. So, to say tension pneumothorax, when do you say it?
Air entry will be decreased on the affected side, ma'am.
Okay.
Percussion node will be hyperresonant.
Yes, very good.
And there will be shift of trachea on the opposite side.
Okay.
Coupled with clinical vital parameters like hypoxia and tachy or bradycardia and hypotension.
So, for you to call it a tension pneumothorax, you will start having hemodynamic disturbance. Only when you call it a.
Tension.
So, you have such a patient now. So, what will you do?
Needle thoracotomy.
So where do you put the needle? Second intercostal space, mid-clavicular line. So why are you putting it there? This patient had an ICD where? So why is there this difference? Why second intercostal space you are inserting the needle or a pneumothorax?
Because air can be expelled from the non-dependent region of the thorax.
So since it is air, it goes up. That's why you're choosing the second space. And you will connect the needle to what?
First let the air come out of the thorax and then I can connect it through a water seal, ma'am.
So what is the...
Ma'am, before needle thoracotomy, I would like to stop mechanical ventilation, stop night rest and just continue 100%.
Good. First you will start giving 100% oxygen and then start your needle thoracotomy.
First allow the air to come out, put on 100% oxygen, and after that I will plan for
What is the role of the underwater seal?
It prevents backflow of the air into the thorax in case if there is a negative pressure in the pleural cavity.
So it acts like a valve.
Valve.
So the function of underwater seal is to act like a valve. Normally, the ICD is connected to how many chambers you have? How many? The drainage system has what chambers?
1, 2 or 3.
So somebody tell about the single drainage system and what are the disadvantages with it?
In the drainage system, it is usually connected to a water seal. It is usually used in case of liquid in the pleural cavity and in cases like pleural effusion or hemothorax, wherein the pressure in the pleural cavity is higher than the atmosphere. As a result, the fluid should come out of the thorax into the bottle. However, in cases of pneumothorax, when there is air in the cavity, the pressure is expected to go down with the drainage of the foreign body in the pleural cavity, and hence the possibility of backflow is possible if there is no water seal used.
No. What I'm asking is you have a chest tube.
The drawback of a single bottle system will be, it can get full, and hence the pressure on the other
You
side
get full because whenever you have something, yeah. So that is why you have.
2 bottle system.
And what is the function of the third bottle system if you have 3 bottles?
Negative suction.
Why do you want to apply suction?
continuous production of something in the pleural cavity, we need to get a third suction.
So what determines the amount of suction in this?
It's the height of water. Height of water.
So it's the height of the water,
In the third
the tube under the water, and it is not the
suction applied.
suction pressure that you apply. What is the normal suction pressure that you apply? You will not exceed what pressure, and why? Why would you not exceed?
Because the height is actually 20 centimeters, the height of the.
Why should you not apply more suction than -20? Why? Is that to do with the?
Collapse the.
It will affect the third tube that is in the third bottle map. It will change the position because of excessive pressure. And it will just suck the water out of the tube.
More pressure this causes, it tries to suck everything else in the lung. It will be causing
atelectasis of the
lung trauma because of more suction.
See, atelectasis doesn't happen. It is going to drain off the fluid, and generally it is done when you have more of exudate which is coming out, because it's likely to get blocked. Now, when we use a single bottle system, you only use a 2 centimeter insertion of the tube. That's the hydrostatic pressure which is exerted, and that's enough for a one-way valve, just 2 centimeters. If the height goes up higher, it becomes 8 centimeters. So that's the pressure which is applied onto the fluid level, and it will stop draining from that. So the drainage becomes ineffective as the height goes up. That's why you have 2 bottle systems. Now, if you have 2 bottle systems, which one becomes the air drainer and which one becomes the fluid collector? Yes. First one is the fluid collector, and second one becomes the air drainer. Is it so? How?
Because the fluid from the first bottle will keep on passing to the second bottle.
It is first bottle which is air passes from the first bottle to the second one. That is kept down the water seal, and the first one is allowed to drain out whatever blood is collected into that. Right? So is the second one. Right? Because the air can go from that to the other side, and then you connect the the inlet is kept above the fluid level, so the air will collect and go into the water seal into the second bottle, from where it will go off into the atmosphere. Right, so that is how it happens. So the first one is a collection bottle, second becomes the one-way seal. So that is to make sure that you at no times hinder the drainage from the chest. Okay, so that all the whatever is collected is drained out. It's not a suction which you're talking about where the bottle is interconnected and when this becomes full the other starts collecting. So don't confuse that with your suction bottles which we normally use in theatres. Okay. Now we are talking about these bottles, no? What are the other mechanisms which are available for collections of underwater seals and other things which are available now commercially manufactured?
You have 3 bottle systems or something else?
Ma'am, a fluorovac is available, which is commercial.
What is that?
It's a compact 3 bottle system, so that the patient can, like the 3 bottle system is very heavy, cumbersome to carry. It is a unit which has all the 3 bottle system in a compact way.
Someone was telling about re-expansion pulmonary edema, right? Can one of you explain us what is re-expansion pulmonary edema?
So re-expansion pulmonary edema occurs when drainage of pleural fluid is done very rapidly or high volumes of fluid are drained. It probably happens because of the parenchymal integrity disruption. The disruption of the alveolar membrane, the alveolar capillary membrane interface because of rapid re-expansion of the lung parenchyma. And the process makes them more leaky, as a result of which pulmonary edema ensues and causes the symptoms like respiratory distress and decrease in oxygen saturation.
So you mean to say that it will be limited to the pathological side of the lung? It will not be unilateral. It will be unilateral, not bilateral. Suppose that this pleural effusion is suddenly drained, right? So you, as per your explanation, my pulmonary edema should only occur on the right side.
As per this reasoning, it should happen on the ipsilateral side.
Ipsilateral. Is that true? Then what happens? What is what?
Checking of the extracellular symptom. Due to the stretching of the extracellular sudden reaction to the expansion of the cell.
So you must understand that the pressures are equilibrated on both sides. It doesn't happen that the pressures are only on one side. Just to tell you an example. Suppose you are dealing with a bulla, emphysematous bulla, right? Now the pressures, the intra-alveolar pressures in the bulla and rest of the lung are all going to be the same. It is not that this bulla, because the septa have broken up and it has become large, that the pressures here are less or more. The intra-alveolar pressures throughout the lung in those areas would always be similar, right? Because the stretch which is applied to the lung tissue is equal in all areas, right? The septa which bind the lung, the interstitial fluid and the tissues which exist everywhere, and that pressure is applied to all parts of the lung uniformly. We are not talking about the West model, but in general. So it is not that your emphysematous bulla will have excessive pressures. It will have the same alveolar pressure as the rest of the lung. Similarly, when you talk about the extrapleural tissues, the pressures there also would be uniform everywhere. If there is excessive pressure, it is applied to the entire lung. It is not limited to that area. Correct? So that is how it happens. Any other sort of pulmonary edema you can get in such cases? That we have discussed. What is negative pressure pulmonary edema?
In the setting of general anesthesia, it can be a complication of things like laryngospasm. So it is more common.
So it's something like dry drowning. We talk about dry drowning. When the patient drowns, they can either aspirate water and get edema, or when they dive, they have laryngospasm, and when suddenly they keep breathing against an closed glottis. So as soon as the glottis pressure is released, a lot of negative pressure would be applied, and we'll have patient going into pulmonary edema. How do you manage negative pressure pulmonary edema? Consider
respiratory support in terms of
that's all. Oxygen will suffice. Pulmonary edema, patients with oxygen will suffice.
so respiratory support in terms of positive pressure ventilation.
Yes, you have to give positive pressure ventilation in peak. It may take about 24 hours to settle down, sometimes 48 hours, but generally 24 hours is what we would look at. 24 to 48 hours of post-op ventilation with peak that will handle such situations. It can happen. Now you have this pleural effusion, right? We have talked about tamponade that you will drain. So for tamponade, if you have to drain, or you are going to do a needle thoracosynthesis, right? How would you make sure that the entire thing is sterile and it is not open to any sort of contamination? Can you quickly devise a system where it is totally sterile without any contamination for needle thoracosynthesis?
So tension pneumothorax is a medical emergency. So
Let's say we are draining the air. Even in that, you first vent out the air, but then you'll have to connect it. So how are you going to make a complete system, or how would you make an underwater scene? You have not got it. It is not ready in the theatre. Now you have to connect that to an underwater scene. So what sort of arrangements you can make to make sure that you have a sterile, uncontaminated underwater sea.
Use a IV infusion set.
Where? To?
Infusion set will be attached. One end will be attached to the needle, and the other end can be put in a partly empty saline bag or bottle.
How do you empty the water?
So, we can remove the plunger from a 2 ml syringe and attach it to the needle, and then connect the 2 ml syringe with a 15 mm connector from a endotracheal tube.
The more you attach these connectors, the more contamination you're going to produce. We want a sterile system. So yes, the IV drip set is completely sterile. The IV bottle is completely sterile.
Just use the IV infusion set that we are using and attach it and put it and then use it as a bottle.
But you can take a fresh one. You can always take a fresh one. Why do you want to use that? You want to use an IV set and IV bottle, just take a fresh one to connect. Right? But how would you, what would you make sure that your, all those things are completely sterile? Aruna will tell. She has used it in Jigmo.
You use it. So you have to make sure the size of your underwater seal is correct. And then you connect it to a bottle with an IV set and make sure you have an air vent with another tubing. The set comes with a tubing for air letting also, a plastic thing connected to a tubing, no? So what we used to do in Jigmo is put the needle with the cannula. We'll take off the needle and leave the cannula in, connect it to a drip set. This drip set goes to a lingual lactate or a normal saline bottle which is empty to just have enough underwater seal. Make sure your tubing of the IV is just 2 centimeters in your water. And then have an air vent. The IV set itself comes with a plastic tubing with a...
See, look at this. The IV set goes there at the bottom. Right? It doesn't go at the top. This is a plastic IV bottle. If you put the IV set here, do the IV set drain off whatever you want to drain off. Right? So the IV set bottle will be that the port would be just inside this. When it comes to about 2 centimeters, you stop and connect it to the right. That's how. So you don't put it here. It's not going to work. It's not going to work. It must have air, and it should have an air vent to go out. So the best thing is put here. Let out all the IV fluid from here, which goes out, until it comes to that area, and then close it, attach it to the air, so that the air can just come in and go out. You just have to cut it off from that top.
What are the methods of evaluating the amount of fluid into the pleural cavity? How much you have? Normally, when will it be visible on an X-ray test?
So on a chest X-ray, minimum is 150 ml of fluid.
Around 500 until unless you don't get anything in the X-ray. What are the signs you will see in an X-ray test to say it is a pleural effusion? Obliquate, right? And what is the contour?
The contour will be concave upwards.
Concave upwards. Suppose it is flat.
Suspect hydropneumothorax.
Hydropneumothorax. So if it is a hydropneumothorax or a pleural effusion, how do you go ahead putting a chest drain?
In hydropneumothorax, there will be 2 drains. In hydropneumothorax, there will be 2 drains. One is above and one is below.
Can you use one drain?
Yes, sir.
How do you use one chest drain?
So we can guide the insertion point using ultrasound in case if it is loculated. Otherwise, it is still inserted in the standard space, that is the intercostal space.
Fifth intercostal space with the tip upwards. Remember, it has got multiple pores. There are 3 pores, 3 to 4 pores. So what's the depth of the last pore? How much is it from the tip? So that has to go in, no? Yeah? How much it is? Yeah, about 10 centimeters. No? So that much amount of your ICD has to go in. So the lower port will automatically drain the fluid what is there, and the upper portion would drain the air. But in any case, whenever you put an ICD, you must take an X-ray chest, because at time it will curve down to go and touch the heart, or it will not be properly positioned. They have to pull it out. And always in an X-ray chest, when you look at, you always look at the last port, where it is placed. Is it near the skin? How much can it be taken out? And if the tube is guided towards the mediastinum, it has to be made straight to go up to make sure that it is functioning well. Sometimes it is too high up, because it is all done blindly, like your epidural catheters. So whenever you put an ICD drain, an X-ray chest is a must, and the guidance is that it should be going up rather than towards the side or going too high up at that area. Sometimes it goes to the opposite side. So there are a lot of anomalies with chest drains which are inserted. An X-ray chest is a must to confirm where it has been. Okay. Now suppose this patient had pleural effusion. You want to put a chest drain, correct? How long will you put the chest drain? How long will you keep it?
Is there less than 100 ml of fluid per day or the prevention of symptoms?
100 ml per day?
50 ml per day.
50 ml. I would say less than 20 ml per day, because it is likely to reaccumulate there, right? So you have to wait for the symptoms to completely recede. Suppose it was put for a pneumothorax. Okay? When will you decide to take out the chest drain? How do you know? Okay, on X-ray chest. Okay, what else? So how would you remove the tube? Chest drain.
No air is coming out through the
Okay, no air is coming out.
the air column is not moving.
Yes. Yes. Then you have to do an X-ray test. So what's the protocol followed for removal of a chest drain? You just take it out, that's it.
Oh, you clamp it?
Clamping.
Yes, clamping. So first you take an X-ray chest, right? See that the lung is expanded. Then you clamp the tube for 6 hours. Then you repeat an X-ray test to see if there is any fluid or air which has reaccumulated in the lung. If nothing has reaccumulated for 6 hours, then you can pull out the tube. That's how it is done. So you'll have to take 2 X-ray tests to find it out. Any idea how fluid or pleural fluid volume is determined by lung ultrasound?
I have a vague idea, but I don't know the exact. Measuring the height and the area.
No, it's minus 20. From the costophrenic angle which you take to the highest or the maximum maximum point where the lung indentation occurs, you measure that distance and then just minus it by 20. That will be multiplied by 20. That will give you the total volume of fluid by an ultrasound assessment. You can do a CT assessment also of how much fluid is there and then see how much can be drained out. But repeated attempts are dangerous because you can either puncture the lung by repeatedly doing or produce infection. We'll stop at this. Huh? How will you anesthetize with the patient with chest drain? Yeah, okay.
Is 2 bottle better or 3 bottles?
3 bottle is mainly if you want to apply suction to increase the evacuation. So unless you want a suction,
In case of like malignant pleural effusion or post cardiothoracic surgery, 2 bottles better or 3 bottles? Generally we have seen 2 bottles given, but in books 3 bottles are.
only if you want a suction, you need a 3rd bottle. That is the only determining factor. And suctions you will not use. Sometimes you have a continuous air leak. You don't want to use suction. So you will definitely not use a 3rd bottle.
Third bottle or suction is used to cause lung expansion. At times by simple drainage, the lung doesn't expand. Normally we expect that after the drainage has occurred of fluid, the lung would expand. But if lung is still not expanding, then you apply suction so that the pleura is pulled a little bit more towards it and it helps in lung expansion. That is what. So when you continuously suck at the area, the blockage chances of drains is decreased. So these are the two conditions where you want 3-bottle system, which will help in expanding the lung and preventing the blockage of your IC.
Can we use a 2-bottle system with a suction, sir?
No, you should not. You should not. It has to be a 3rd bottle which should be interfaced. Otherwise, the pressure can be too high, and at times it will not help you much. You need an interface in between, so that you directly do not have that kind of pressure applied to the lungs. So we had till 11:30, I think it is 11:45, we exceeded by 15-20 minutes. Thank you very much.
Thank you, ma'am.